why you should consider moving your residential portfolio to commercial. I think it would be fair to say, and anybody who's been investing in residential property such as buy-to-let over the last few years, the whole landscape for owning residential property has deteriorated with the changing tax system and the government restricting tax breaks on the interest that you pay, and obviously the allowable expenses have just deteriorated. So actually owning residential property has now become very difficult indeed, especially when you take into account the repairs that have to be made. If you've got mortgages on them, the cost of those mortgages has been slightly prohibitive in the last couple of years. They really, as an investment asset class, have turned out to be generally fairly poor. Now that's a fairly wide sweeping statement. There are one or two sectors in the residential market that are still moderately attractive, and HMOs do come to mind in that respect because you can generate so much more profit from the one property. But in general, I think it would be fair to say we've seen in the press, we've seen online a lot of comment from residential property landlords, how they are now starting to sell their stock and really wanting to bail out of this particular investment asset class. However, obviously, if you were in that situation, you clearly love buying property, and perhaps it's time to think about looking at moving into the commercial property ownership world. I've had a lot of people come to me when we've had this discussion in the past, and they say, I don't know anything about commercial property. But I would suggest to you, actually, it isn't that complicated, and that when you boil it down, buying the property is by and large no different to buying any other property. You go through the same sort of purchase conveyance system. But I think when you start to look at commercial property and perhaps do a little bit of research, you'll start to see that it is potentially a very attractive place to go into. Not least of all because if you are taking a lease on a commercial property, usually those leases are for 3, 5, 7, 10, or even possibly longer years. Hopefully you will have a stable tenant, rent rolling in every month. But I think one of the real big differences is it's the tenant in a commercial property who is responsible for the repairs and maintenance of your property. So you could have a tenant in your commercial property. They may want to make even some improvements to the property, which they'll pay for. That enhances the value of your property. So I think there are some real plus points, certainly when you're comparing leases between commercial and residential property. There's a lot less responsibility on you as a landlord when you have commercial property. So that is certainly worthy of your further investigation and research, I would suggest. However, if you also then add on the fact that if you have got commercial property, you can put commercial property into a pension scheme. And without doubt, the best pension scheme we think that you can go into to own commercial property is a SSAS. And that is obviously where One Crown Pensions comes into its own. So if you have a limited company that is actively trading, then you are potentially able to open up a SSAS. That company can make contributions for you. That company will get tax deductions for those contributions. If you already own commercial property, could the money that's held in pension from contributions and perhaps transfers from other pensions that you may have had, could that money be used to buy commercial property off you, so potentially allowing you to recycle money towards another purchase? There are endless opportunities here. And clearly, if you can move your commercial property portfolio into SSAS, then you are moving it as well into a fantastic tax-free zone, which clearly you don't have if you hold commercial property in, say, a limited company. Holding commercial property in a limited company is certainly better than owning it personally, because you can in effect control the taxation in terms of drawings, but you still pay corporation tax on the rental profits that you are making. But obviously with a company you do have offset cost allowances that you can bring to the table. But when you compare it to SSAS, there is no comparison. We have made videos on owning property in company and SSAS and with a whole set of figures, and they speak for themselves. So yes, look to put the commercial property into SSAS. The minute you put it into SSAS, the rent will then be paid with no tax deducted. You are then moving the property into a pension scheme which is exempt statutorily from capital gains tax. So again, you start to eliminate those future tax problems. And also, the commercial property is out of your estate for inheritance tax purposes. I think a lot of people who hold property, whether it be commercial or residential, in limited companies, quite often the value of that company is in your estate for IHT calculation purposes. Again, if you're not sure, speak to your accountant or give us a shout and we can have a look at that for you. But it is a critical factor that you need to have a look at, because that could be a very expensive item on your IHT calculation bill. So yes, let's start to get those properties into pension. It makes total financial sense. Having done it hundreds of times, I quite seriously have yet to find a good reason why you shouldn't put your commercial property into pension as opposed to holding it in any other way. But hopefully that has been helpful. We'd love to hear from you. Do you think we are going to see more investors moving their property portfolio from residential to more commercial units? Please comment below.
Book a call with us via the link in the description below. If on a mobile device, simply hit the More button under the video title and pick a convenient time to speak. Feel free to share this video with others that may benefit on WhatsApp or in other online groups or channels. Like, subscribe and hit the notification bell for lots more SaaS related content, and leave a comment if you found this video helpful. For more, visit onecrownpensions.com.